Still got one more match here in Week 5 of the European Open Division, and it's going to be between Immotus and Protatoes. I gotta love that name, but let's talk about Immotus first, Naori, because I think it's fair to say that we probably expect them to be the favorites coming into this series.
Absolutely. They've got a little bit more time together. They've got a little bit more experience. Just having a look at the team sheet that they filled out, a lot of them have been on various different teams, including Blue Flame Esports. We got a player from that team as well, and they did quite well last season, making it all the way to the playoffs. So a lot of experienced players here, and that definitely does give them the edge over Protatoes, who are kind of a newer team. They've got a couple of teams that have played in Open Division, but they're not really, they don't have the same kind of level of experience.
Well, if we're talking about the stakes for this match, both these teams currently sitting at 7-2. Now, we do have one more week of the Open Division, so a loss here isn't necessarily a death sentence like it would have been last season, but it's hard to say whether or not, having 3 losses on the board really gives you a decent chance of getting into those playoffs like both these teams, I'm sure, are hunting for.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't come into something like this without really wanting that final title, because yes, the practice season doesn't have too great of stakes, but it is a great indicator of potentially how well you might do in the OD proper series, and it does give you that practice against some of the higher tier teams, and so that you know what to expect going forward. So you want to go as far as humanly possible.
As far as humanly possible, I think, to forgive the terrible pun here. We do have dual Pharas, mirroring Pharas, coming out for both sides, as it will be North versus Kaid as the teams work their way to the point. It seems like Immotus just want to get control of it nice and early. They are stuck in this tiny little room now, so if the angles can come through here, can still be a rough position for them to be in. They're taking a lot of damage. Joker ever so low. Kaid getting completely taken out, and the pharmacy is decimated. 4v6 heavily in favor of Protatoes here. Airbone gets 1 back, but I don't think that's going to be nearly enough for Immotus to stabilize.
Protatoes actually doing exceptionally well here. They didn't take first point. They kind of played it a little bit more slowly, waited till they had somewhat of an advantage, and bam, they got those first 2 picks off, and just like that, they managed to push on to point and take control. Now, they've given up 28%, but they do have time to build it up here, and they've got Nano Boost ready to go. They're about to have that high noon, so not looking too bad in the ult bank. Over on the other side, however, we do have the Coalescence ready, and that is a fantastic opener. Because there isn't too much to defend against here with the Coalescence. There's no Gravitic Flux yet, so they can safely use that to engage. If they so choose, we might in fact just see another drive push here to try and build up a few more ultimates.
Coalescence builds pretty quickly here, so I'd be surprised if Sansky doesn't invest that one. Can both pierce through the shields and laser the Pharah out of the sky. But right now, North just playing back, playing passive, not wanting to give an angle or an opening, so Sansky's going to have to invest it just to try and give the ground war the advantage, but more than enough coming through the other direction. Nano, Valkyrie, everything coming out here for Protatoes. It seems to be working, as yet again, they get the pharmacy early, and Immotus, they just have to back up.
That's the thing. We are seeing here Protatoes really understanding their win condition. They gain that Pharah out of the sky as quickly as possible, making sure the Mercy goes down with him. Get that big threat out of the way, and even with the enemy team having a McCree, you've got so much cover, you've got the rest of your team to kind of back you up, so you have a massive advantage in that regard. So playing that quite well, taking control of the point once again, already up to 70% on the point.
Yeah, and you gotta wonder here for Immotus, if they really want to try and stick on this pharmacy combo heading into, yes, the next couple of fights. I think they probably will, because they have the barrage and nearly the Valkyrie, right? But if we're looking at the rest of this round, the rest of this map, pharmacy, that's 2 fights in a row where Kaid and Joker have both gotten caught out early, and it's cost Immotus the fight.
That's the thing, you need to make sure that you're getting a ton of value. Now, they don't have a Pharah to nano, or rather, they don't have an Ana to nano boost their rocket barrage to try and get
the other Amari.
Value. The other one. And we still have the Sigma and the Orisa available to do quite a lot of shielding, so if they don't get value out of that barrage, they might just be wasting more of their time than necessary. So hopefully they get some value out of it. But if not, I really want to see the swap off here, because if you're consistently losing the Sky battle, we saw it on the last match with Jiru versus Robin. If you're losing the Sky battle, your pharmacy strat isn't going to work.
He built it right now. Doing a good job of keeping that advantage. Oh, the combo coming through here. Excellent execution from Simi and Airbone. 2 ults to completely wipe Protatoes off the map.
That was nutty. That was absolutely disgusting. And it was exactly what they needed. 2 ultimates used, 2 ultimates down, and still have 3 in the bank coming into this next fight. That being said, Protatoes have got 2 ultimates of their own with another 2 about to pop. So looking good coming into this next engagement. If they can keep control, if they can make sure that they use their ultimates effectively, if they can zone out possibly the pharmacy and just get that initial pick. Not what they were hoping for.
This is working out great for Immotus now as they switched onto this mirror composition with Airbone on that McCree. They really didn't struggle with that defense whatsoever, and now where their ult economy was maybe a little less, they're solidly stabilizing there, Ori.
True. They've got a lot of ultimates online, 3 ultimates online. In fact, they're about to have the high noon as well, just to kind of add to that collection. And we did see how deadly that was in the previous fight. So hopefully they can get a little bit more of that off. Protatoes, however, coming in, starting it off with the... Wow, okay.
But it's just the Deadeye counteracting. Immotus wanted to go for an aggressive push there, and they got punished very heavily for that. I like the idea, Naori, but there was just a bit of an issue in the execution.
Yeah, starting off with some death there for Protatoes, and they do take back control of the point, and Immotus need to touch. They've got like 2 seconds.
Ooh, Simi barely manages to get there, does pay for it with his life. Airbone back on the Tracer, takes North out mid-barrage. Barrage coming the other way, but Kaid doesn't manage to find anything either, and it doesn't seem like he's going to be as rezzed like North was. Airbone trying to make up that deficit on the objective right now, but it's just Sansky holding down the point, trying to keep overtime ticking away. It's not going to happen, and Protatoes take our first round here on Ilios.
Performing way better than what we expected. We kind of highlighted previously that they don't really have the same kind of experience as the players on Immotus do, but showing us that that doesn't actually mean anything, and here they have taken their first map. But we need to bear in mind it is still just the first map on a assault type, on a control type map.
There we go.
There's still time to swing things in their favor for Immotus, but Protatoes looking pretty good here, having a solid understanding of how they want to run their composition. And now as we move on to Ruins, this has been a very Widow favored map. I'm very curious to see if this composition from Immotus is legit, because it's a very cool Genji Widow type dive, and yes, it looks like we are in fact rolling out with this one, boys.
I would say it's old school, except for the wrecking ball we're seeing from Simi here, so
yeah,
going to be very interesting, especially playing into the Reaper May. I feel like this is going to be kind of difficult for them, Naori, with, you know, wrecking ball going into May. That's one of the biggest counters to the hamster that we can see. Pile drives on in, the dash comes through, Airbone actually getting the pick off of that pile drive, and with North down as well, that's all of the threats really off the board. Immotus snowballing into this first fight.
I mean, you were talking about, you know, the Reaper and May, and I was like, well, in my mind, I'm busy thinking, well, it doesn't mean much if Airborne clicks on their heads, and, well, wouldn't you know it, get a beautiful pile drive from Simi, everybody up in the air, and Airborne just gets to pick somebody off. It did happen to be the Reaper, not the May, but despite that, you're already in a 6v5, and they managed to clutch out and win out that fight, and oh my god, Airborne! Alright, Filted is getting a little tilted.
Filted's got to go for the army crawl at this point. He's not going to be able to poke his head up as high as he's looking for at this point.
Yeah, he's a bit too tall, man. He gets caught out
too
up
tall.
in the sky.
Maybe stop wearing heels so much. Oh, North! The wall even, but it doesn't save him. This is starting to look like an issue here for Protatoes.
There's such good synergy between Simi and Airborne at the moment, because as soon as the enemy team becomes Airborne, we see a great pick-off, beautiful headshot, and already we've got the sight. So now Immotus know exactly where the enemy is coming from.
Well, Airborne does have to give up a bit of space, was getting pressured out a little bit, and is in a bit of a precarious position next to the edge there. But it seems like Protatoes, they're going to respect it. They're going to rotate around, not try and force him away, but instead go straight onto the objective. There's the Nano Blade coming through. Not finding a ton of value, but Freebuzz is getting the damage done. He's cleaning up the kills necessary. So you may not see the Genji in the kill feed too much, but the work was done regardless.
Absolutely. A lot of help there, getting a ton of damage. And then, of course, you got Prebus in the back line doing the cleanup. And it's kind of cool when you do that because then Cade doesn't need to focus on getting those final blows. Just get everybody low and the rest of the team will do the rest. Easy peasy. And again, a solid cleanup for Immotus here. They're not allowing any point presence.
No, none at all. They're not even allowing this rotation here as the minefield comes out to just stop them as we tick up toward that 99%. It does seem like Potatoes are going to be able to get to the point. Built-in managing to get there, but Raven pays for this rotation with his life, and both healers are now gone for Potatoes. Blizzard, Gravitic Flux, everything coming in. The Death Blossom's what finds the value, but still so low here for Potatoes. It's not over yet. Airborne still uncontested, and that is going to be round number 2. Going to Immotus in a dominant 100-0 fashion.
It was insane. It really looked like Filtered might have turned that fight around with that Death Blossom, managing to get 3 down, but the rest of his team were far too low, and Immotus were able to clean it up. That Widow was fantastic. I enjoyed watching that far more than I would like to admit, possibly because we just don't see too much Widow. And just seeing how he is able to consistently get those important headshots. I mean, in that last engagement, managing to take down both supports, kind of as the engage had started, you cannot overestimate or exaggerate how important those pickoffs were. So now, moving into Well, and again, another fun map because there is a lot of potential for some of those environmental kills, and it looks like Immotus opting for a Hanzo. Okay, Farah.
Well, Potato is going to be opting to just sit back and wait that one out. They're going to get stalled up, and now Immotus just to take control of the objective however they really feel like here. This Farah can get set up. Kaid is going to be pretty hard to dislodge once that point unlocks.
Yep, and there we go. Point has unlocked, and we are going to see Airborne up on that high ground. Oh, gets taken down! That is so...
No! Freebuzz with the halt. Camper's like, well, if all my team's going into the pit, everybody else just join them. Wow! You gotta love to see that. Freebuzz already at 83% to a supercharger because of that one. Just casually.
Okay. You've got to respect the enemy Orisa on Well. This is such a dangerous point to play on. And to be able to get those halts that easily, you're literally giving the point away. You have an Orisa of your own. You know what Orisa is capable of. You cannot allow that to happen. So now Immotus coming into... Okay.
What were we saying about not letting environmental kills happen? I'm sorry, could you repeat that for me, Ari?
Well,
I just need a quick refresh on that one.
Well, it seems they took matters into their own hands. Not as big as the halt was, but fair enough. Get a nice little boop in there, and that immediately puts you up in the numbers, up to a 6v5. And immediately, so now they have the opportunity to push on. They've taken down the Sigma, and that's pretty huge because the amount of support that the Sigma provides to the rest of his team with his Matrix, with his shield, it's so invaluable. So now, with the Sigma out of the way, they really have an opportunity to push in. They're taking a very interesting angle, though. We are seeing them kind of... It feels like they're waiting for something to happen. So, potentially, they're going to come through that left side, if you're looking from the spawn attack, or their attack, I suppose, from their spawn. Come through that left side and hopefully push on and get some value. Now, they do need to be aware that Kate is still in the sky, and of course they need to be aware of that Orisa. They've learned how to turn the tables with the environmental kills, and hopefully they can keep that rolling.
Yeah, and you did talk about the 6v5 advantage here. I do think we have to set the stakes, come clean here. We do have a disconnect coming out for Protatoes. It is Lazdaika who is currently disconnected, has to reset the router. So we're gonna quick pause. We're gonna get back into it, but you know, one-off tank for another disconnecting. Not necessarily the advantage Protatoes were hoping for coming into this next fight. So still very much going to be relatively even fight here. Prebuzz so close to that supercharger already. I, for one, am kind of expecting Immotus to still have a bit of an edge here, Naori.
Absolutely. I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head there about the supercharger, because the extra damage that comes through with the supercharger is huge. And on top of that, because you're dealing extra damage, your ult is building faster. So everyone else on Immotus that does damage or whatever, they're going to have added ult charge on top of what they already have. And I mean, we can already see Kaid up to about 60% on that barrage. So just add a supercharger on top of that and you got a barrage before you even know what's happened. Both Sigmas out of the fight. One Sigma will have lost all of his ult charge, which is very unfortunate, but we're coming into this in a 5v5. Let's see who does actually come out on top.
Protatoes pushing their way on the objective now. They avoid any kind of environmental kill from Kaid's concussive rocket here, so it won't be traded back. But the Shield War still pretty heavily in favor of the defense at the moment. Immotus winning that one out, at least for now. There's the supercharger coming down, and that's just going to buy even more time off of the clock here. Airbone trading for a support here. Still pretty advantageous for Immotus, but then the slate is just reset here by the Resurrections. Ooh, pull into the pit. Combos there coming out. The concussive rocket, the halt, the stun from Simi guarantees that kill, and we're getting into 80% territory. Naori, Protatoes have to make their move.
I don't know if they can, because the huge anti-nade means that... Whoa, here we go. Massive anti-nade. They managed to take down a few. They're actually on this point here. They're getting work done, Paul.
Yeah, anti-nade definitely setting that one up there. Joker going low did not help either for Immotus. So 95%, just have to win one fight if you're Immotus right now, but it's not over yet, Naori.
Well, looking good coming into this last fight, because yes, they...
Oh, come on, guys.
Right? He gets booped off, not even into the well. He gets booped off at some arbitrary point in the map. A little bit unfortunate, but here we go. Pushing onto point immediately with the man advantage. Start things off with the Dragon Strike.
Dragon Strike does zone away Protatoes from the shield, but North in the back with that barrage, more than making up the deficit. Airbone trying to even it out. It is currently a 4v4 here on the objective, and Protatoes can't afford to give up even an inch. North getting the knockoff onto Simi, but not able to stay alive himself. So still a pretty even fight, and one that Protatoes have to stay in, Naori.
Yeah, and they're doing their utmost to stay in this fight, but taking so much damage from absolutely every angle. Of course, the Moira orbs aren't really helping them out in this situation. Cade still has that rocket barrage online and ready to go, about to have a coalescence as well. But on the flip side, a great pick-off from North means that Airbone is out of the way. This could be the opportunity that they need.
The Deadeye not finding anything, but the Anti does force back Immotus, so they are going to have to give up a little bit of that progress they got toward capping it. But Kaid, over by the coast, finds North. Now, can he deny the resurrection? It does seem like he can. The concussive rocket, the barrage coming through, the coalescence to keep Kaid alive. The sleep puts an end to any more kills, but the damage has already been done. Both the supercharger and the mercy gone for Protatoes, and Simi is cleaning up the rest. The Dragon Strike coming through as well. Immotus starting to really push forward in this fight, and as the Orisa goes down, no one else can get there to keep the point controlled for Protatoes. It seems like Immotus gonna win this one out. Oh, just barely Lesdaika gets to the objective, but I think this one's still in the books for Immotus, Harry.
Yeah, looking really good, Jack. Kai just kind of popping off there. So a fun little gravitic flux, put the Lucio in the air. Kai just kind of bombs him out of the sky. Didn't stand too much of a chance there as the last little vestiges of time tick over. And yes, Immotus will take our first map of the series. Now, in the very, very first round of Ilios, we kind of highlighted that we were seeing some great play from Protatoes, and it looked like they were going to put up a massive fight. But come those next 2 rounds, the second round was an absolute wash. This third round, it was a little bit closer again, but Immotus just kind of consistently edging out that little bit further.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see if they can keep that momentum going, guys. We are going to have at least 2 more maps of this series coming at you after a quick break.
Yes, guys, come on, nice. No way. Everybody, come on. Can you be please here?
It was a back and forth map on Ilios, but ultimately it was Immotus taking the win. Protatoes certainly putting up a fight though, Neri.
Yeah, doing a lot of work there, particularly on that first map. I did kind of touch on that a little bit as we closed out the last map. They were looking so strong on that first round on Ilias, on Lighthouse, but as we moved on to the next two maps, they really started to stumble a little bit, and Immotus did wind up taking the win. But now we are moving over onto King's Road, and something that we do tend to see quite often is that some teams really excel at the at the escort assault type modes, where they don't do as well on the control assault type modes. So possibly this could be where Protatoes make their big comeback.
Yeah, absolutely. Control is very often its own beast, right? I believe that's what you're getting at. And it is going to be, it seems, Immotus on the defense first. We do have a side swap coming through, so it will be Immotus in the blue and Protatoes in the red as we head in. Protatoes attacking first, as Immotus have opted to defend here. Interesting what they're showing right now. I'm not convinced that Brigitte is staying, but it seems like it is. They've walked decently out of spawn. They're going toward the objective. Joker opting for the Brigitte. What do you think is the objective with this pick on the support?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I mean, I have been seeing it a lot more recently, and I think that they are possibly going to be using that for a little bit more space control. They are running that Pharah, or sorry, not Pharah, the Mei and the McCree, and I think they might be expecting a Doomfist or some sort of a flanking DPS. Of course, Shield Bash will come in handy there, and the Inspire on Joker. As much as Brigitte has been made more of a support now, you can still kind of play her a little bit more aggressively and get a little bit extra healing there if you can keep that Inspire uptime up. So we might be seeing a little bit more aggressive play here from this Brigitte, but for the moment they are going to hold back a little bit. They're going to wait for Protatoes to push into them before they take this opportunity. You don't want to be too aggressive with this particular composition.
I like the guts here from Protatoes. They see that there's a McCree and they say, you know what? We're going to run the Pharah anyway. Oh, as I say that, they go back and swap off of the Pharah. Okay.
So
Never mind. So what I like instead of the confidence is their flexibility. That's what I really like from them. That's what's coming through at the moment. But they are going to be opting for just the standard Reaper Mei. Very much expected here on the objective. They need to actually push in. Here they go. They're getting an aggressive pull forward there. Uh-oh. Joker going too far forward with that shield bash. Overly aggressive there. Maybe wanted a bit too much to get those Inspire procs off that you were talking about, and it's going to cost him his life and cost Immotus point A.
That was a very quick and easy push here. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be this dominant, in fact, from Protatoes, so they did exceptionally well there. I really like that they did swap off onto the Mei instead of that Pharah, because again, it does give you a little bit more opportunity here. And again, now we're seeing the McCree being swapped for a Reaper. We're going to be seeing something a little bit more standard, as well as the Lucio here from Immotus.
Speaking of Lucios, Raven getting caught out immediately there as Protatoes tried to push forward, get some space, but they weren't all in it, and Immotus just take advantage. And now they're going to get the optimal positioning here, Naori. They're going to get to try and hold at this choke point.
Well, okay, we're going to start off with a Gravitic Flux there into the ceiling of the archway, but doesn't get any value. As I say that, nice pick off there from Airborne Ball.
Yeah, still more than enough damage coming down onto Camper since there was no sound barrier, but with the Blizzard coming out, Immotus still have to be careful. They have to back their way on up. Only Kaid gets caught inside of that ultimate, so still a relatively even fight. Airbone also dying on the objective, just trying to buy his team some more time, but Immotus, yet again, gonna have to head for the hills or die on cart.
Protatoes showing us, once again, that same kind of gusto and stick-to-itiveness that we saw on that first map.
That's a technical term.
Yeah. And they're doing really well here, winning out these fights. Look at that time bank as well. It's not too shabby as they approach the second point. And might I draw your attention to their ult bank for just a moment? They used the Blizzard in the last fight. Now they have one of everything else, looking poised to take this next fight quite handily.
Nice wall from north as well. means that the touch from Immotus here is a little bit awkward. Cade, Airborne both a bit far forward. The Death Blossom from Filted, not finding a ton of value as the Maze are just traded. Coalescence is coming out, but matched by Supercharger. Supercharger coming down the other direction as well from Protatoes now. It's kind of out in the open. There's the Death Blossom. Does get stunned out by Lazdaika though, so still a relatively even fight here for the moment. But Airborne does go down. That should be the opportunity that Protatoes was looking for. Naori! There we go.
That's all, folks.
And
And it looks like that might be all for Protatoes, or rather for Immotus. Protatoes managed to use every single one of their ultimates and not winning the fight as handily as I'd expected, but there we go, finally coming out on top here, and it looks like they will be able. Holy cow, Immotus just, they're so tenacious, but unable to stop the push.
Maybe trying to be a bit too tenacious though. Naori, what do you think of the investment of the Coalescence there at the end of that fight from Sansky? He'd already lost half his team.
I mean, I'm not happy about it, you know. They were trying to burn off time and hopefully kind of wait for some respawns, maybe get a little bit of an advantage there, but now they don't have it coming into this next fight. Despite that, they still have a little bit of an ult advantage here, so might not be too big of a deal, and of course there is the spawn advantage.
Well, May advantage as well here for Immotus as they push their way on forward. The Supercharger in a very safe position, but without one of your damage dealers, it's hard to make use of that Supercharger. And Protatoes, they know better. They're just going to back up and accept the fact that they're going to have to try this again.
This is where I think Immotus could possibly make their hold. Because again, they have that spawn advantage, and if they continue to perform like we saw on those last two maps on Ilios, I think that their defense could be quite strong. But it got eaten!
Ooh, Blizzard not going to be there for North. It's only coming up for Kaid, and it locks down more than enough of Protatoes. The cleanup kills coming through as well. Simi, excellent use of that kinetic grasp there.
Doing so well, making sure that that Blizzard is out of the picture and that only your Blizzard will reign supreme. And again, holding onto this point, and now 4 ultimates coming into this next fight. They've got their Coalescence back, so not too worried about losing it in that previous fight.
Supercharger Coalescence coming out here for Immotus, so even though the Coalescence is matched from Camper on the other side, North still goes down, and that's still more time burned off the clock here. These are pretty short fights, Nary, but Immotus is holding on to each and every one of them.
Well, Protatoes doing really well there to do kind of a soft disengage to make sure that they deny value from both the Coalescence and the Supercharger. And now here they are coming in as 6. 3 ultimates online, including, of course, the Gravitic Flux and the Death Blossom. If they can possibly combo those together, it could give them the advantage that they need.
Gravitic Flux counteracted by the Sound Barrier, as you'd expect, but there's the Death Blossom to follow it up. Kinetic Grasp not saving anyone here for Simi. And after investing a slew of ultimates, it does seem like Protatoes are going to be able to keep this push moving, try and get the payload all the way through with a minute and a half remaining.
Now what's interesting there is the Gravitic Flux came out, we saw the beat from Joker, as well as a boop onto Filtered to make sure that he couldn't get too much value from the Death Blossom, but it actually worked counterintuitively because booping Joker out of the way meant that he lost some time on the Sound Barrier, Joker getting that value, and now we get into possibly the last fight.
Coalescence either direction, Kaid going forward, paying for that Blizzard with his life. It does zone out North, but you gotta get the kill here if you are Immotus. They do, but they lose Joker as well, so still player advantage heavily in favor of Protatoes. They even finish off Simi, have the Sound Barrier for his Gravitic Flux. It's just Airborne trying to make up the hero play, does get one, but it's not nearly enough for the moment, although Kaid knocks Lazdaika off of the edge. Respawn advantage is still here for Immotus, so they have a chance to bring this one back, and it seems like they will.
Possibly. It looks like we're going to see a little bit of a soft reset here from Protatoes, and I think that is the move that they needed to make. So now they pull back a little bit. They've got very little time left though. They need to go. They've got 3 ultimates online here. They have a massive advantage because the entirety of Immotus did some swap-ups there for that last minute stall. They have advantage. Can they push through? Can they get this last point? We'll start it off with the Coalescence.
Kaid having to run away here, and the tank's not optimally set up. We have Simi on the Diva and a boop off the side of 2K here from Raven, even though it doesn't say it in the kill feed. So an advantage for Protatoes as they push their way on in. It's all eyes on Kaid and Airbone. They've got to start making picks, but Airbone gets frozen up and taken down. Kaid follows him into the grave. Simi does get the 1 kill onto North, but is it going to be enough here, Naori? The Supercharger out. It's still too much damage.
There's way too much damage. There's no way you're going to heal through that. And in overtime, they managed to just inch to the end there. Airborne getting just too late on that Tracer. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get that stall. Fantastic play from Protatoes. All right, they kind of lost a little bit of steam towards the end there, as I kind of mentioned earlier. The spawn advantage for Immotus was so strong, and they managed to put on such a big hold. I think ultimately what might have shot Immotus in the foot was those last minute contestion spawns or swaps. Because yes, you want to contest payload, you want to make sure it doesn't get to the end, but you've given up. They gave up about 3 or 4 ultimates in their quest to stop the payload. And coming into the last fight, they had nothing to come up against Protatoes and the 3 or 4 ultimates that they had in the bank. They did manage to build up the coalescence, but it wasn't enough. And Protatoes looking pretty strong here on King's Row.
You still have to give it to Immotus for how well they held that 3rd point, though, right? Considering how quickly this 1st point went over and how 2nd, Protatoes didn't really stumble on either. So whittling all of the time off the bank potentially here for Protatoes, still a decent feat to be reckoned with, and nothing that you're too upset about if you're Immotus. All you have to do is cap with over a minute and you guarantee at least a draw.
Absolutely. And now as we move on for their defense, it looks like they're going to be running that Bastion Pharah or rather Bastion May. Why do I keep confusing May with Pharah? Your brain gets used to saying...
Yeah, I don't know. They have absolutely no similarities, really.
They're both projectiles.
That's literally it.
Well, your brain gets used to saying 2 words together, and I'm used to saying Bastion Pharah, but no, it will be the Bastion May. Interesting setup here, though, because you can deny a lot of the damage, you can circumvent a lot of it, and it looks like that is exactly what we're going to be seeing here, a long, wide rotation to try and cut that Bastion's damage off.
An Airbone going down into the objective forces Lezdeka to go down and contest as well. Nice rotation here from Protatoes to get onto the other high ground, though. So, still very much line of sight for this Bastion, and very much a favored fight for Protatoes. It seems like Immotus just going to throw themselves on the objective, try to get 1 tick for free, and they do. Lezdeka not making it there in time to stop that tick from coming through. Damage still being pumped out by Filted, but a kill as well. So now Nimi Noihoi has to go down onto the objective and contest. It's a full push forward here for Protatoes, and that's not what you're looking to do if you're part in this composition. Coalescence coming out as well. Filted gone in the backline. This is looking so good for Immotus on this offense, Naori.
I mean, we saw such a fantastic play there to send the Reaper back into the Bastion, and we had kind of Lezdeka alone on the point trying to contest, but it wasn't going to be enough. And as soon as the Bastion kind of got distracted, we saw the Sigma go down, and now the brawl is still going. They've forced the whole of Immotus into a really awkward position here, but somehow they're still brawling it out, waiting for those respawns. Bastion's already back.
Filted is back. He's got the configuration tank mode as well. He's pumping in those shells. Gets one. He cancels the sound barrier animation from Joker. Protatoes coming back. They make it happen. Not even a second tick gain for Immotus on this offense.
What a ridiculous stall from Protatoes. I'm so impressed there. They managed to have 2, maybe 3 people stall out for so long, gave Filter just enough time to come back, throw in that configuration tank, and completely decimate. Now, as you mentioned, they did give up 1 tick, but it's not the end of the world. That being said, we still have 2 ultimates online here for Immotus, whereas every single ultimate was used by Protatoes.
Coalescence, first thing out north, already down. Wasn't able to get into the Immortality Field. Now the Immortality Field is gone as the Gravitic Flux comes through. All of the health goes away for Immotus for Protatoes rather, and Immotus are going to be able to unlock the payload.
finally they do manage to unlock it, and 3 minutes 40. I mean, this is kind of the time bank that we saw Protatoes have after they hit that second checkpoint. So immediately you can tell that Immotus are not going to have the same kind of time bank, but they still do have that Blizzard in their pockets on this offense here. No other ultimates in the bank though, so looking a little bit sketchy coming into this next fight. We do have the damage amplification matrix, and if Camper can stick that down in front of Filtered, help get that configuration tank back up, we could see a pretty solid stall out here on second point. Immotus, however, kind of shown themselves to be pretty scrappy. Maybe they make it through. A lot of space being given up here, though. Holy goodness.
Protatoes knowing what they want to play around. They want to play around the Bastion. They want to play around the line of sight, and there's no better place on the second point to set up a Bastion than right where they are. Amplification Matrix going out, and Joker is going to be taken down. Maybe got a little bit greedy there, trying to push the cart from behind the cover of the payload. It's not going to work out for him. It's going to cost him his life and a bit of time off the clock.
And we've got a good position here for this Bastion. He's got some decent lines of sight from both avenues, so very difficult to get snuck up on, which is exactly what Airbone's trying to do. Oh, he gets caught out by the Sigma.
Good rotation from the rest of Immotus, though, to make sure that this isn't going to be punished too heavily. The ice wall coming out as well from Kaid, and Airbone does get away with his life. But still time whittled off the clock, Niori.
Yeah, really good job there to keep him alive, but as you mentioned, now we're down to about 2 minutes left. Cade still has that Blizzard available, but slowly but surely we are seeing Protatoes build up a ton of their ultimates. They came into this fight with next to nothing. Now they've got the Gravitic Flux, they've got the configuration tank, and already the pick onto Airbones.
And the wall coming out as well. Healers separated from the rest of Immotus. Filtered, it's just a shooting gallery for the Bastion right now, and you know, you can really see why Protatoes were willing to give up all of this space.
It's absolutely dirty. Yes, a great strat for them. They have given up a little bit of space, but working that in their favor. I kind of mentioned the sight lines earlier, and you can see just how well that's working for them. 3 ultimates in the bank here, about to have that Blizzard as well. We've got Coalescence ready here for Immotus. Hopefully that'll help them push forward a little bit, maybe get to that checkpoint, but that May wall could be problematic.
Gravitic Flux also an issue here. It seems like Immotus want to try and just rotate underneath the Bastion, but they have lost their main healer in Sansky. Most of that healing is going to be gone with the tank configuration. With the Blizzard coming out, payload progress has been gained, but with a minute left, there's still a few meters to go here for Immotus.
A lot of ultimates have been used here, though, from Protatoes. All they really have left here is that supercharger, but they'll have the damage amplification matrix soon. If they combo those together onto Filtered, that's going to be absolutely disgusting. That being said, Immotus, quite a few ultimates there. We've got the Blizzard, and we're about to have the supercharger and the Death Blossom. Looking pretty good coming into this next fight, but I have said that before, and somehow teams have not been able to clutch out those last few meters. So let's see, can Immotus pull this off? North waiting for the rotation, but he's watching the wrong side.
Yeah, no, only catches Airbone, who manages to Wraith Form away. The rotate underneath the Bastion, working out in the Blizzard, zones them out as well. They're frozen up on the high ground. They can still contest the cart from there, though. The Death Blossom coming out to try and finish them off, and it manages to do so. A long-winded hold here from Protatoes, but eventually they have to cede the second point.
Immotus played that so well. Making sure that they kind of sent the Reaper around the other side for a little bit of a distraction, keep the May busy, and as they come around the corner, throw that Blizzard out, freeze out the Bastion, and pretty much everybody else take control of the point and still hold on to 3 of their ultimates in the process. Now, down to 1 minute and 10, it's going to be difficult for them if they want any sort of time bank. They kind of need to win on this push, otherwise it's going to be an overtime, and we could be going to the draw.
Less than 60 seconds now, so at the very least, Protatoes will get a chance to win this map yet again. Nimoy Noihoy going down first, though. The Blizzard does come out, but it doesn't really catch anything. North not able to find much of anything with that Blizzard, so it's just Lazdaika trying to hold down the fort on the objective. Does get frozen up, and eventually Raven has to stop pocketing him, so the payload's going to keep moving forward here. And it seems like it's going to be barreling toward the end of the map, Naori.
I mean, I like the Ashe. I was kind of raving about it a little earlier on the previous match, but I don't know if I agree with the Ashe on this particular point. But well, it seems to be working. They managed to zone out Immotus, you know.
No, the bomb comes down onto the cart, and Immotus just have to back up. They've got less than 5 seconds remaining now. Joker's trying to touch. He's not able to get there. He gets frozen up. Simi going forward. Airbone is the one who finally manages to get there, but half of Immotus already gone. Prebuz just gonna have to make up the deficit himself, and what can one horse do? Answer is simply die. The Blizzard even canceled from Kaid, and we are 1-1 heading into halftime. Wait, ignore that.
They
Team
didn't,
names were not changed in lobby. It is Protatoes that you see on your screen now taking the map win.
Really well played. And again, I gotta kind of bring it back to, we were talking about how Immotus seem to have the advantage just because they're a little bit more experienced, but on this particular map, I don't know, Protatoes, they really showed up. And I was kind of mentioning before about how certain maps tend to favor certain teams, so possibly Control just wasn't Protatoes' map, and as we kind of moved on to that hybrid map, they really shone. They performed out of their minds, and yes, it was a very close game, but ultimately they will take that second map, so we got at least 2 more maps to go.
And those 2 maps are going to be coming to you right after a quick break, so make sure you stick around.
Someone is in the house.
What does he want?
The purge. You haven't been yourself. I know.
Yes, guys, come on, nice. Come on. No way.
Everybody, come on. Yes.
Can you be please
all tied up as we head back into the match here between Immotus and Protatoes. Temple of Anubis will be where we head to map number 3 here, Naori. Why do you think it is that Immotus have selected this to be the potentially momentum-swinging map in this series?
Geez, that's hard to say. I mean, given the kind of compositions we've seen, it's not like we've seen any heavy Pharah play. We haven't seen anything really that indicates that compositionally that's why they would have chosen this particular map. So it might just be that this is a map that they're a little bit more familiar with, they understand a little bit better, and they maybe have some sneaky strats for, which is kind of what I'm hoping for. I really love seeing a good sneaky strat. We have seen a lot of fun and interesting strategies on this map. In fact, in the previous game, we saw that Junkrat that didn't quite pan out as hoped, but it's always nice to see.
I'm always a fan of the J Silly, but probably not the best call for teams at this level, right? I mean, it's not even a good idea when I play him in my plat games, much less, when you try and play him at one of the higher echelons of open division.
I mean, and you could go like full Team USA and roll out on like Reinhardt and Genji and like Orisa. Just really go full quick play mode and still win the World Cup.
I would be surprised if that was the case here, and it seems like it's not going to be, at least for the defense. We do have yet another Bastion strat coming out here north on the Widowmaker, interestingly enough. I mean, makes a degree of sense. Widow, definitely one of the historic picks on Temple of Anubis, but has kind of fallen off due to the double shield meta.
Absolutely, but we are looking to see a dive coming through here from Immotus, so Widow might just get a little bit more value than what we thought.
Could be a scout.
Good it with the Winston and the Diva.
No, Airboat not going back to spawn, actually just rotating on through. This is actually a classic way to counteract the Bastion strat as well, because you get that EMP Nano Blade online, and you can cleave through pretty much an entire team.
It's like they knew, and now Airborne getting into position, the dive comes through, and immediately the pick off! No ways!
And there's an anti coming down as well. Raven and Nimi Hoinoi both in trouble. They gotta back up. Raven goes down, traded out for the healers, but still a 5v4 advantage for Immotus on the offensive. It seems like they're going to press the advantage here. They take out the other healer. Widowmaker's gone as well. Point A going to be going over with lightning speed to Immotus.
Well, now we know why they picked Anubis. They wanted to run a extremely dangerous dive. I mean, they did that so quickly, they didn't build up a single ultimate. We'll have Primal Rage and Blade fairly soon, but like, they literally just speedran that first point, managing to take down the Bastion so quickly in a matter of seconds. A well-executed dive there. Unfortunately, Protatoes just had no answer to it. Now we are going to be seeing them swap off onto something a little bit more class. We're going to be seeing that Reaper Mei composition. The Mei is going to do wonders to try and help stall out that dive a little bit, but not sure if it's going to be enough. They've given up quite a bit of ult charge to make these swaps, and Airborne getting dangerously close to that EMP.
Yeah, if I was Immotus here, I would just have Airborne go into the back line, farm up the EMP, and play to that 3 ult win condition that they're nearly at already. If they can manage to get a 6-man EMP onto a composition that honestly sticks together a good amount of the time, it should be devastating.
Absolutely, and we've almost got that EMP. In fact, we're up to 90%. Nanoblade is ready. There goes the Nanoblade. They're not even waiting for the EMP.
Kind of whiffing a bit there. Does manage to get the dash onto Lysdyka, but oh, there it is. Both healers with one swipe. I was about to say not finding the value, but he manages to get it done. Just took a minute for him to find the right angles, but it's still a hold here coming through for Protatoes. They still have the respawn advantage, and with the Death Blossom coming out, it's a lot of damage coming down onto the surviving members of Immotus. No kills coming through now, except for the one onto Camper, and it's not nearly enough, so even with the Nanoblade committed, no ticks taken here, Naori.
Oh, the Diva stagger. Oh, it's been so long. I forgot what this looked like.
we had forgotten the horrors of Meta's past.
Finally, he does go down. Airborne having held on to that EMP, and I think they might, if they'd been able to use that in the last fight, it might have gone a little bit better, but they do have it coming into the next fight. We are going to see some swap-offs, though. They used all of their ultimates, not the end of the world, so now they're going to hold on to the Sombra, but they're also going to pull out a Mei of their own and possibly swap the Sombra off as soon as they get that EMP off.
And interestingly enough here, Airborne just got scouted there, but also, Lasdaika stayed on the Reinhardt. Didn't swap back to Sigma. He's like, you know what? I'm 50% of the way to an Earth Shatter. This is what's gonna win us the next fight. I promise, guys. We'll see if that is actually the case. There's a 6-man EMP. It catches on to literally everybody.
There it is.
Airborne pays for it with his life, but he nets the lives of the entirety of Protatoes. It's only Camper alive now. Trying to go onto the point, try to stall this out with the coalescence, but it's not enough. 2 ticks taken, and now it's all about how long can Protatoes stall.
And it worked out so well that they managed to get that EMP and take down 3 or 4 people at the same time. But finally, they are getting back onto point, but it's just not enough. They're getting picked off one by one. Instead of giving up 1 tick and regrouping, they're kind of staggering onto point, and they're just getting picked off by Immotus.
Yeah, it seems like Protatoes don't want to win this fight. They just wanted to shave as much time off the clock as they could, and they whittle it down to about 2:47. Still a pretty decent time here for Immotus, though, Naori.
A massive time bank, just under 3 minutes. Okay, the second point didn't go quite as quickly as the first, so it wasn't really what they were hoping for, but it's given them a lot of leeway in terms of defense. It just means that they could be trying to go for the full hold here on first point, but regardless, they should have the superior time bank, unless, of course, Immotus, or rather Protatoes, come through with like an amazing King's Row level attack and storm through the first 2 points. This is looking quite favorable for Immotus. I'm actually so excited to see what we're going to see on attack here from Protatoes. We saw a fantastic dive from Immotus, and I'm kind of hoping for something similar here. Maybe not a dive, but just something a little bit out of the ordinary, something that'll catch them off guard.
You do have to put a little bit of an asterisk on their time bank, though, because I do feel like there was potential rather, for it to have been just a bit better, right? Airborne, when they went in for that first push, was mere percentage away from that EMP, right? And they decided, no, we just want to throw in the Nano Blade, throw it out now, save the EMP for later, and just, it almost felt like they were accepting the fact that they weren't going to win outright on that first point, but you gotta wonder if they had just waited for the EMP, if they could have had maybe another whole minute in their time bank.
Absolutely, but we'll see if it actually means anything here over on this defense. We're going to be seeing that Winston Wrecking Ball. So we got a little bit of a dive-esque composition here, dive adjacent, got the Widow and the Pharah. Over on the attack, though, using the Bastion and the Symmetra. So Symmetra to get the Bastion up onto the high ground. Hopefully he can get some value. They do have Camper there to provide the immortality field if necessary, if filter goes a little bit too low. But at the moment, getting shielded quite nicely by both the Orisa and the Sigma when necessary. They might. The problem with this is it's such a static composition. They need to get a couple of picks before they can push.
Or they need, or at least need to use this Bastion to get line of sight. They're just waiting for Symmetra teleporters, and they finally go down onto the landing. But it's an excellent rotation. They do catch Kaid, but that might be the only kill they get. No, Joker also down, so 4v6 pretty solidly in their favor. Filter does go down. There is a resurrection, though, and it's going to be pretty hard for Prebuzz to camp that corpse. He's not going to be able to, and Raven does get the resurrection. Kills still slowly filtering in here for Protatoes on this offense, and eventually they're going to get this first point.
So Protatoes not playing as quickly as what we saw Immotus do. Of course, they're not running a dive composition, but slow and steady did in fact win them the race, slowly inching forward meter by meter, just slowly getting closer to the point. They do have 5.5 minutes, but it looks like they will likely swap. No, they're not going to swap. In fact, they are going to push through with this composition, and I'm curious to see how it's going to work on this second point. Oh!
And look at this interesting hold here from Immotus. They say, you know what? If we let them set up, if we let them get to the objective, that is a fight lost for us. We're going to push forward. We're going to hold them at these forward chokes where we know that if we lose 1 or 2 members here, we can back up and still get another full fight.
Now this is interesting because we are seeing North take on Airborne in the Widow 1v1. But of course we did see how deadly Airborne is over on Ruins earlier today. So don't know if this is a fight North can take.
Freebuzz already down as well. Does get traded out for Lezdeka, so it is a 5v5 here. And Airborne still relatively uncontested despite the fact that North is on that Widowmaker right now. It seems like both Widows just going for picks right now, not contesting each other too much in the heat of the fight.
It's possible that there's also a little bit of pressure from the other heroes, particularly the more dive-centric heroes of Privas and Simi, putting a little bit of pressure onto North as well. But we do have wall hacks online for Immotus. They know exactly where Protatoes are going to be rotating from. They can get themselves ready, and that's exactly what they do. Getting ready for this next engage. Missed the dive! Oh!
But it's more than enough. The concussive rocket comboed with the barrage there, Kaid, setting them down into the pit where he would tear them to pieces. Already basically 2 minutes off the clock here for the offense for Protatoes as they try to even out these time banks.
Protatoes now have swapped onto a very interesting composition. Clearly they've got the McCree for the Pharah, maybe trying to get the Winston for a similar effect to try and help get that Pharah out of the sky, but I'm not too sure. I don't know how well these heroes are going to synergize together. And, well, I mean, that being said, here we go, Kaid goes down.
The res does come through, but that is a res off the board. One you can't use for Sansky, and with Joker going down, that's both healers gone. Now it seems like Protatoes have finally gotten the fight they want to. They do use the Supercharger and the Coalescence very far from the objective, though, so there's a very real potential for a recontest and a fight win still for Immotus.
And the time banks are looking very, very close here, but North managing to get that pick-off is great news for Protatoes. All of these pick-offs, they're doing so well here.
Freebuzz is stalling a lot of time with that Primal Rage and does manage to set up a couple kills as well. Kaid trying to find another one here, uses the recall and is now very vulnerable on the Tracer, but nobody's able to stick onto this nimble hero, and Kaid's just dancing around the objective, getting all the damage down, and it's only about half the point taken as it seems like Protatoes are losing out on time bank assuredly now.
And North has lost the Widow 1v1 versus Airborne twice now in that last fight, and then just kind of off of spawn. So not looking too great in that Widow battle. Airborne already has another sights up and ready to go. Not going to pop it just yet. Oh, there we go, there we go. Now they know exactly where Protatoes is, and no matter what happens, the time bank is not favorable here for Protatoes, even if they can finally get that second capture.
Coalescence having to be invested early yet again for Protatoes as they try to just muscle their way so they can even see the objective fighting out in the courtyard right now. They do find Freebuzz and Joker, so now they can push forward rather comfortably once this anti-nade has worn off. Airborne, like you said though, that's 3 for 3 on the Widow battles. Who's gonna go up and contest this Widowmaker? He's just giving him a little bit of a runaround at the moment.
Yeah, but he did go quite low there. He had to move back, and that means that his team is unprotected. They're going to invest the beat though, and hopefully this is their attack to take this point. Lezdeka kind of popping off.
Ooh, Freebuzz does have the Primal Rage though, and we saw how long he was able to stall in the last fight. He's hunting Raven down as well. Not going to be able to find the kill, but still respawn advantage here in favor of the defense. Obviously, it's Immotus coming back from spawn. They've got the numbers in their favor now. Nimoy Hoinoi getting cornered right now and taken down as well. Not much more percentage gained, and we're down past a minute here for Protatoes if they want to try and even draw this map, Naori.
Immotus with the spawn advantage at the moment is just absolutely devastating, and unfortunately Protatoes don't seem to be able to focus their fire, get those important picks, get them out of the way quickly. My lord, Airborne is just absolutely popping off. North tried so hard to contest, but after losing that battle over and over, opting for the Mei instead. But 30 seconds left on the clock with a very strange composition. Can they actually get onto second point? Can they capture it? They only have one ultimate in their bank. It is not looking good here for Protatoes.
Well, and yet again, Immotus going to take this fight out in the courtyard aggressively and force the investment of ults. We're down to 10 seconds left and already an advantage for Immotus on the defense. Now Joker does get frozen up. Caught in the objective there. But with Nimoy Hoinoi going down yet again, it's still an issue. Pulse Bomb coming down, connects onto Lezdeka as Kaid is running an absolute tear. Lezdeka shuts him down, but goes down himself. And Immotus put themselves on match point.
Airborne managed to get about 3 picks in that last fight. He did so well there. And in fact, going so low, he was literally 1, and no one was able to get that final blow on him. He had about 5 HP for a solid minute. Nobody got the final blow, and eventually the Coalescence got to keep him alive so he could get a few more of those pickups, or pick-offs rather. So Airborne, when he's on Widowmaker, you gotta make sure you're doing something to contest him. North on Widow isn't gonna be enough.
Evidently not. We'll see if Protatoes can find the answer and send us to a map 5. But first, we've got to deal with map 4 after a quick break.
For the players.
What is up, my bandit legions? God Queen Tyrene coming at you live with my brother Troy. We're streaming, you're screaming, and we're all ready to open the great vault.
This is the last day in the ordinary life of Cameron Ackerson.
In the past year, reports of unexplained electrical phenomena.
They want to destroy our world. And they're the good guys.
KIA. We need to move fast.
You'll find this a target-rich environment.
Think we fight this war with sticks and stones?
Going dark.
Welcome back. We just saw Temple of Anubis here in the European Open Division. Immotus took that map despite, yes, Naori, a relatively brutal stagger on Tassimi, but it was Immotus taking it at the end of the day, and they are now one map away from winning this series.
Yeah, we haven't seen a Diva stagger the likes of that since 3-3 was the meta. You hate to see it, but it's also pretty nostalgic. Now, however, we're going to be moving on to Rialto. Now, Rialto, of course, is your escort map, and if it goes anything like the King's Row hybrid, this could be where Protatoes turns it around. This is one of those maps that we tend to see a lot of the Bastion Pharah, not May, I actually mean Pharah this time. So we might see a little bit of that, or they could just roll out with some really weird stuff. But I'm kind of hoping for the Bastion Pharah because I feel like there's a lot of play involved in that. You can get really aggressive with that Pharah, really get in the enemy team's face, so it could be pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely could be here. Rialto definitely does favor into that Bastion. Also favors into some environmental kills, and it's been a minute since Ilios, but I think we do have to remember just how many environmental kills came out for both teams. And if we're going across any of those bridges here on Rialto, maybe keep an eye on those as well.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that first little stretch there is so good for those environmental kills, particularly, so we've got Orisa in the meta here. Pharah is quite meta on Rialto itself. That's a lot of boot potential. Lucio is everywhere, like, I mean, even if you can get a really good accretion from Sigma, like, there's so much potential here on those bridges, and you cannot get to the second part of Rialto without getting over those bridges. There is no workaround. You just have to power through and hope you don't get booped off, which is exactly what these teams are going to be hoping for. And I'm really, really excited coming into this map. It is potentially match point, but this could be where Protatoes turn it around, bring it back, and maybe take us to a map 5.
Would be our first map 5 of the day. It'd be very exciting to end the day with a banger of a series here. But first and foremost, Protatoes going to be coming out on the offense. They're going to have to try and get a good push forward if they want to lock this one down. We're going to have the defense first from Immotus in the blue this time around. And I'm interested. Now, you said Bastion Pharah. Now, you have 5 seconds. What if they don't come out on Bastion Pharah? What are they going to run then?
Widowmaker. Double Sniper is really good on this first point of Rialto. You might want to swap it up for the streets phase, but for this first map, there's so many great sightlines. But I might be wrong on both counts. We'll give it a second.
Look,
but,
you had the sniper idea right, it seems. It just, instead of Widowmaker, actually an Ashe coming out here for Airbone. We don't see Ashe very often, do we, Naori?
Well, we did see it on King's Row a little bit earlier today, and I was quite confused by that, but it worked out really well. Bob managing to be MVP and holding on to the payload, as he is wont to do. What's interesting to see here is Simi on the Roadhog. We've kind of spoken a little bit about the Roadhog throughout the day. Both matches that we've casted have seen a little bit of that Roadhog pick, and there's a lot of pick potential here, so I'm liking it. I really am, and of course, it's great support for that Ashe as well. Coming through on the attack, though, it is just going to be that Reaper Mace, so no Bastion Pharah for Nari. We're going to keep things somewhat vanilla.
Seems like Immotus want to contest this early as well. They're opting at this first corner, where most teams, there we go, would retreat to the second corner as they're doing now. A lot of damage coming through, but they managed to get away. Ooh, the halt into the dynamite. Tons of damage coming down, and also alt charge for Airbone, but it's still a pretty even trade. And by even, I mean it definitely favors Protatoes on the offense. You'll take your Lucio for an Orisa every day of the week. And it seems like that is going to be the pick that opens up the fight and the entirety of point A for them.
That's a Bob.
I don't think he's going to do. He does not do anything. Bob does not do anything.
When there's like 4 people on you, you're not going to achieve too much. But yes, this is already shaping up to be a little bit like a King's Row 2.0 and immediately be getting this payload to the first checkpoint. Doesn't look like Immotus is going to even try to contest it. They are going to be holding up further along towards that corner. And again, giving up quite a bit of space here. Oh, that's dangerous.
Ooh, dangerous for both teams, but for the moment, It's Immotus coming out on top. The freeze onto North, but they can't connect onto the kill. The shield protects him, and Airbone goes down and trying to get that elimination online. So, at a player deficit, it seems like Immotus are going to have to back on up.
And that's exactly what they do. Gonna give a little bit of space here, wait for Airbone to get back, but they need to be careful. Filtered. Oh, okay, he's not on the high ground anymore. They're good. He was on a little bit of a sneaky flanking mission, and there we go, back on the flank. Got a couple of ultimates online here. North sitting there with the Blizzard, but we'll start things out with a Coalescence for Immotus.
There's that Blizzard coming out from both sides, actually. Kaid maybe a bit far forward, but manages to get the kill onto North, resetting the freeze with that ice block. And as we head into a pause, it does seem like Protatoes do have to go for that reset.
Yeah, Immotus definitely have a strong advantage here. They have managed to get 2 picks, and they've only managed to get one of their own players down. So it is a 5v4 situation. They do have the advantage here, and immediately you can already kind of see, well, you guys can't, we can see that Protatoes have already started to back off a little bit. They don't want to lose more players than they absolutely have to. It's looking dangerous for this particular push, but with 4 minutes 20 on the clock, they can afford to lose this. They did use that Blizzard, and unfortunately, they didn't really get value out of it, but they do have the Supercharger online. Added onto that, they're about to have the Gravitic Flux as well. He's on about 93% there, and there is no defensive ultimate to counter it. So if they can use that, and with Filtered on 80% of the way to his Death Blossom, he can combo that with either the Supercharger or with the Gravitic Flux. Either way, you can get a ton of value. So the right play here, exactly what Protatoes are doing. Pull back a little bit, regroup, come back harder, better, stronger, faster.
Yeah, still a good chance to get a blazing time bank here as they push their way on forward. One fight lost is not the map loss. Gonna push their way on over the bridge. I expect them to open up with the Supercharger, but it's actually Pre-Buzz throwing the Supercharger at first. It is matched the other direction, but Simi losing his life to the Gravitic Flux on the other side. Moi Hoi gets that one cleaned up. The Coalescence coming through. A lot of damage going forward. Kaid, a little bit far forward, but the damage goes down onto Airbone instead. Not able to Wraith form away there. Now it's really just a question of how long can Immotus stall.
Well, instead of comboing either the Supercharger and the Gravitic, or the Gravitic Flux with the Death Blossom, it seemed that they would rather combo the Supercharger and the Gravitic Flux, and it did, in fact, work out quite well for them. Still have that Death Blossom available, particularly now as we move on to the second point, and yes, we are going to see the stall attempt come through here.
The Coalescence coming out, Filtered just using the Death Blossom to pick off Joker there, so mobility in favor of Protatoes as they push their way on forward, but they hardly even need the mobility. Everyone is just throwing themselves onto the objective, and second point going through, 4 minutes and 21 seconds on the clock to get point C.
I mean, this really is Kings Row 2.0 coming in with a massive, massive time bank here. Now, this point is slightly different to Kings Row. Yes, it is very, very enclosed, but this one slightly more so, and there isn't potential for those environmental kills. So we might be able to see Immotus hold a little bit stronger here than what we did on Kings Row. And immediately they're going for quite an aggressive hold here with 4 ultimates online, starting it off with the Gravitic Flux.
No sound barrier for that Gravitic Flux either, so the Death Blossom to clean it up is more than ensured. Filtered does win the Reaper duel, but doesn't win the fight.
No ultimates used there for Protatoes, but that just means coming into this next fight, they've already got their Supercharger and Gravitic Flux ready for the next fight, which is insane. They used it 1 fight ago. They've also got Blizzard ready to pop, and Filtered, who just used his Death Blossom, already up to 76%. Protatoes popping off here in the ult economy battle.
Good wall, though, from Kaid. Stalls this one out, and both Superchargers down as the teams trade damage. But Nimi Noihoi, I'll get it right eventually, does go down first, pushing out. His shield went down, and that is a snowball that is easily rolled down the hill.
Solid hold there. Now they use the Supercharger and the Coalescence. They don't have those for next fight. not too bad. Simeon about 80% to a Gravitic Flux. Raven only 46% to a Sound Barrier. So it's going to be quite dangerous to try and survive that Flux. But they do have another 3 ultimates online, including a Flux of their own. They do need to be careful because there are 2 support ultimates online for Immotus here. Once again, looking very poised to hold on this 3rd point.
Oh, the Blizzard coming forward, though. Even with the Gravitic Flux coming out from Lazdaika, the Sound Barrier makes it trivial for Immotus to hold on to this fight. They have to invest quite a few ultimates, but it's as clean as it gets here, Naori.
3 ultimates used in that fight. I mean, that's not too shabby. Somehow Protatoes kind of holding on to a few of their ultimates, and I'm glad to see that. You'll see a lot of teams kind of throw ultimates in a last-ditch attempt to try and get some kind of progress, but they have managed to hold on to the Blizzard and the Death Blossom, and that's, again, 2 ultimates that you can combo very well. Need to be careful, though. There's a Gravitic Flux online for Immotus.
And the Death Blossom, yet again, no Sound Barrier as of yet. There's that Blizzard coming through. Airbone does have the Death Blossom if he wants to use it. He finally throws it out, but it's a little too late here. Only manages to trade main tanks with Filton on the other side. Now he just has to stall out the card as long as he can.
And Protatoes managed to win out that fight with just their 2 ultimates. They kind of take a little bit longer to get onto the front foot in these fights, but when they do, they use 1 or 2 ultimates and they absolutely smash. Now they've got that Sound Barrier online, and with just a few meters to go, looking very good here. Coalescence about to pop for Immotus. They'll probably engage with that as soon as it pops up, but will it be enough?
There it is. It comes up, locked off for a moment by the ice wall from North, but North's going to be paying for that one with his life. The Sound Barrier out. An interesting investment, really, but with only 60 seconds left on the board, you understand what Protatoes is thinking. However, it's not going to work out. Raven getting clocked by the rock there. Joker finishing that one off, and the follow-up kills coming through as well. Naori, is there even enough time to get a real fight here for Protatoes?
I mean, possibly if they pick something that's like really, really super fast, like maybe a Sombra to try and get into the backline and touch Cart. There is a possibility to touch, but we're not going to see that. They are going to come through with the same composition that they've had all along. Maybe Raven can get through with the Lucio speed boost. They do still have 2 ultimates online coming into this next engagement. There is every possibility that they can take this back, but with just 15 seconds left, I don't know if they'll be able to get there.
Oh, and they have to walk through ice and hail. The Blizzard coming out. No one can get there. Oh, North is desperately trying to walk forward, but he gets frozen up, taken down. The wall coming through as well. No one can touch the cart. And the huge time bank whittled to nothing as Immotus hold shy of that 3rd point.
And that's so unfortunate for Protatoes. Unlike Kings Row, they were not able to clutch out and get those last couple of meters to cap that 3rd point. I think Immotus probably realized what their mistakes were on Kings Row, tightened it up a little bit, and of course, as I mentioned, there's really no environmental issues to contend with on this 3rd point, so they managed to tighten it up, and they managed to hold on to that 3rd point. Now, however, if they show a similar showing to what they saw on Kings Row, and it took them so long to really get any progress, then we could still potentially see Protatoes take this map. That being said, Immotus, they kind of seem to have pulled together since that first map. They really haven't been giving too much space, and I don't know, I think they're looking pretty strong here. They might be able to clutch this out into a win.
Well, you talked about the 3rd point issues. I'd like to kind of cycle back to that one, right? Because I think during this series, we've kind of seen Immotus really hit the ground running in these enclosed spaces. You think Kings Row 3rd, you think Rialto 3rd, even Anubis 2nd, right? Where they held so well. I think the tighter these fights, the more close everyone is together and the less angles you have to work with, the better for Immotus, it seems.
Yeah, it does actually seem that way. As soon as you kind of close in on them, get the wall super close together, it kind of forces them to play a little bit more as a team. And of course, that's exactly how this composition is meant to work. So an already strong team in this composition becomes that much stronger because they're forced closer together. Now, however, you did mention Anubis, and we are going to be seeing the same dive that we saw a little bit earlier. Possibly they were expecting the Bastion. It's not to be. It's going to be that Ash Farah. But the dive can still get a lot of value. Not as kind of coordinated as previously. They're a little bit split up here, but potentially that's the point. Kind of split up the attention a little bit, giving a lot of free space here.
And there comes the dive straight in onto the tank lines. 1-for-1 trade onto the snipers at the moment here, but Protatoes having to back up a little bit. They do have to recognize that they have a disadvantage when it comes to spawn. So even though it's trading evenly for the moment, this is ultimately going to favor Immotus if they can keep the momentum rolling. Rez coming through for Lazdaika though. So Immotus having to respect that.
Yeah, we are going to see Protatoes stabilize a little bit here. The dive is a little bit dangerous, particularly given the fact that Protatoes do have an on their team. As soon as the dive comes in, a big anti-nade will come through, and that puts them at a little bit of a disadvantage. But we are seeing the ultimates slowly tick up. Interestingly, we saw Filtered win the 1v1 against Airborne, so we might have found the match.
That anti-nade did come through, but Camper paid for it with his life. Very even trades coming at the moment, but Prebuzz with that nano is going to make up the deficit. Takes out the opposing main, take the res. Coming through the boop, not quite canceling that one. Simi tried, but no cigar there for the off-tank of Immotus. Now it's just him on the objective. He retreats towards his team. And with the respawns coming through, it seems like Immotus are going to keep this rolling for the moment.
Twice now Filtered has taken down Airborne, but we are going to see a nano boost onto the Sigma here. Not too sure if that was necessary, but it does allow him to get quite aggressive and into the face of Immotus. Can they get any value out of that?
It seems like, I mean, they forced Immotus back at the very least, right? So one ultimate to re-stabilize on the cart, and now they get to pick their footing for this next defense.
And we're going to take a look at ultimates for just a second here. Now, it's taken both teams quite a while to build up these ults. For Protatoes, we got Supercharger, as well as the Barrage, and of course the Mercy Valkyrie. I mean, okay, we got 5 ultimates online for both teams. Let's put it that way, boys. That's a lot of ultimates, and this fight can really go either way, and it really comes down to how well are these teams going to use these ultimates to their advantage. I'm expecting a Nano Blade. There's no defensive ultimate here.
There it is. Everyone's throwing everything out at the moment. And nothing is fine value. Are we back in Ghost Meta? No. Okay, Kite does go down using that blade, and North finds 2 with the barrage. So finally, an ultimate finding some kind of value here. Even gets resurrected. So a full hold very much in the cards here, potentially, for Protatoes on the defense.
And for the 3rd time, Filtered will best Airborne. Not looking too good here for Airborne on this Widowmaker. Not getting the same value that he was getting earlier. And you're absolutely right. That was a Q fest. Everybody hit Q. But now we can see why Immotus... Oh! Alright, well, there's that environmental kill we spoke about a little bit earlier.
That's a key stagger coming on to Simi. It's going to make it really difficult for Immotus to get a real last fight.
Yeah, super unfortunate there. And of course, they've lost... Well, they used all of their ultimates, and now they've swapped over onto a slightly more stable composition, but they don't really have anything to deal with this Pharah, and trying to move forward is becoming so difficult, dealing with the spam from both the Pharah and the Ashe.
They have to use the sound barrier aggressively as well, which opens up North to take advantage of once it has worn away. Filtered finding the kills as well. The DPS on fire here for Protatoes, and looks like we are headed to a map number 5. Ladies and gentlemen, the barrage will close this out and send us back into control.
What an insane display from Protatoes. You know, I was talking a little bit about how these types of maps seem to be their map type, and like you say that, but you're never quite sure how accurate that is, and it does seem to be quite accurate. So if we follow the trend, the next map theoretically should be Immotus, or rather Protatoes. No? Immotus. They did win the very first control.
Immotus did win the control map, but it was close on the majority of the rounds there. So it's still a question of whether or not Immotus can return to form, get the 100-0 that we saw on one round of Ilios, or if we're going to get a bunch of 99 to 99s as we head on to our 5th and final map. We'll have to wait and see until after this quick break.
What is up, my bandit legions? God Queen Tyrene coming at you live with my brother Troy. We're streaming, you're screaming, and we're all ready to open the Great Vault.
For the players.
Someone is in the house. What does he want?
To purge.
You haven't been yourself.
I know.
It has been back and forth here between Protatoes and Immotus, and now we head to one final map to see who is going to claim victory in this series and go 8-2 instead of 7-3.
Paul, have we been watching Overwatch or table tennis? And really just as ping-ponging back and forth. And it's been a lot of fun to watch, actually. I don't think any of us really expected this to go to a map 5, but we are here for it. We are excited, and our map 5 is going to be Busan. Pretty exciting. In fact, we did kind of mention the trend of these teams and how Immotus did take the first control and how they did seem to have a little bit of an advantage on the control assault type maps as opposed to escort and hybrid. So theoretically, Immotus should take this one, but we saw Protatoes put up such a good fight on Ilios. If they can dig into that, if they can kind of tap into that, particularly off the back of their win on Rialto, then I don't know, they could just turn this around for themselves.
And it's been a long series since Ilios. Only one map of Ilios, only one stage rather, was one-sided, and that was Ruins, where Airborne, Airborne just got to pop off on the Widowmaker, and we've seen throughout this series different attempts at answering that Widowmaker from Protatoes, and it seemed like last map on Rialto, Filted on a counter sniper was their answer, and it worked out pretty well for them. So maybe they have the answer they need, Naori, or maybe they don't even go for that. Maybe they just go meta and Airborne gets to do whatever he feels like yet again.
I mean, it seems very likely that might be the case. And particularly on downtown, there are some fantastic sightlines for Widowmaker here. So it looks like we are going to be seeing that Winston Wrecking Ball with the Widow and the Pharah. And we did see how dangerous and dominant that can be. And as you mentioned, Protatoes are rolling out on the meta here. Of course, the Mei instead of the Doomfist. It didn't work out too well for them on previous maps. Hopefully it will work a little bit. Oh, never mind.
Nope, you jinxed it. You should have finished that sentence earlier because it's already ruined by the time you are on the last word. Just tanks here on the objective for Protatoes. The Auntie's going to clean them up as well. And yet again, we see that combination coming through of the Wrecking Ball, Pile Driver into the Widow shots.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a caster curse there, unfortunate, but we'll give them a chance to try and bring this back. They've swapped over onto a almost mirror, just for the tanks, the tank line being slightly different. So instead of opting for that dive approach, they're going to go for a little bit of a slow and steady, but still have the Widow and the Pharah of their own. Now, Filtered on the Widowmaker. We had North on Widow on Anubis, and he wasn't getting the 1v1 done. But let's see, maybe Filtered can do a little bit better and actually deal with Airborne, because that's one of the biggest threats that they've had throughout this series.
Well, and Filtered, ideally speaking, will have the shield advantage as well compared to Airborne, right? In that choke point, the shields are down, but the rest of Immotus making up the deficit here. Airborne doesn't need to do anything if everybody's already dead by the time they get through the choke.
All right, so we've figured out the calculation here. We've got the method. You put Airborne on Widow, you win. That's how that works. Unless you're on Rialto. Every other map, Airborne on Widow, we win. Coming into this next fight, however, 4 ultimates online here for Immotus, so looking pretty stacked. We're now seeing Filtered swapping over onto the McCree. Gonna be focusing a little bit more on that Pharah to try and deal with that. Goodness.
And the Infrasight is out as well. The barrage coming down. No kills going out of that one, except for the one onto Filtered. Trading at the very end of it, but advantage still very much in the favor of the defense here. Airborne getting pressured out by North. Gotta find the shot, but it's North who lays down the law. Says, I have with this Widowmaker in particular. And at 90-some% and counting here as the Wrecking Ball goes for quite the stuff. Come on, guys. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Get the halt on.
We did it.
97 will be the percentage that Immotus have to their name.
Oh, goodness me. Immotus coming into the next fight with 2 ultimates online. Of course, they have the massively zoning ultimate of the Wrecking Ball Minefield. And again, they just need to win one fight. They can even go into this next fight, basically dry, build up a couple of ultimates, come into the fight, and clean up. They've got a lot of time on their hands.
They opt for a different method, though. They immediately throw out the minefield, but it's cleared off largely by Lezdeka. Despite that, both healers down. as the nano goes out onto Filted. He's not able to make up the deficit. He's trying with the Deadeye. He gets 2! Filted staying alive, maybe making up the difference here as it's just the Widow and the Mercy remaining for Immotus.
And looks like Abraham's going to back off a little bit, but he's got his eye on Spawn, so anyone that comes from Spawn is in big danger, including that, just misses the shot there onto the Lucio, and he manages to get to point safely, and that's exactly what they needed now, building up that point presence so that they can try and mount some sort of a defense here. Immotus already back, no ultimates online, but have been looking so dominant.
Simi does miss the initial pile driver, so no setup there, but the ante comes down. The damage coming through. North trying to get something out of that barrage, but Airbone shuts him down. Trades very much in favor of Immotus as they look to clean this map up.
Airborne, Widow, win. It's the formula, boys, and now they are going to take control of this map. And can someone touch? Let's take a look. We got a Tracer zipping her way to point. Is she going to be able to make it in time? So close. Just touches
barely.
and takes over that overtime. Can they take control?
It's not looking good for that Neri. Kaid getting the 3K off that barrage, and just a Reinhardt and a Lucio stalling. That's not going to last very long here. And Immotus put themselves one stage away, just 100% from match point and winning this series.
Immotus doing really well there to make sure that they held on to a couple of ultimates for that end fight, particularly that barrage. They knew that they had Airbone holding Spawn, so the team weren't going to come through that side. It basically forced the rest of the team to funnel around the side. Come around the side, swan dive down, barrage, 3 people dead. Really good strategy there, and they did manage to hold on to the point quite well. Now, as we move on to the second point, this is kind of do or die for Immotus, or rather for Protatoes in particular. If Immotus win this map, they win. If they lose this map, they get one more chance on the next map.
On
so
Mecha
this
base,
is
yes.
really exactly. So Protatoes really need to take this one, and it looks like they are gonna go for old reliable with their compositions here. Really hoping this is gonna work out. But we do see Airborne on that Widowmaker once again. We know how deadly that can be. They need to deal with him.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But Kaid, maybe gonna need to fix his positioning there next time around. Does get resurrected though, despite the forward position on that kill, but it costs Simi his life to make space for that resurrect. So still a 6v5 in favor of Protatoes, and not only that, Protatoes have control of the objective. Kaid going in very aggressively. Not sure that was the right call there, bud.
You know that your team has lost the fight, so you just dip down, fire off a couple rockets, get a little bit more ult charge, and then, you know, go next. And he is coming into this next fight with about 45% ult charge, so ultimately it did kind of work out for him. That being said, we do have Protatoes sitting pretty on the point here. North doing a lot of work on that May, and managing to get 2 picks in the last fight. He's somewhat had it with the entirety of Team Immotus, but no ultimates online here just yet for Protatoes. They are slightly further along than Immotus, particularly in that coalescence. So looking good to try and hold on here.
Pushing forward, the knockback from Simi, displacing a lot of Protatoes from the shield, but no follow-up coming through after that one. The coalescence right now just stalling out the push here, and actually Simi yet again goes a little bit too far forward. This Wrecking Ball not working nearly as well on this objective where there isn't as much high ground to abuse for the hamster. So both tanks down, and yet another reset as Protatoes tick past 60%.
Protatoes, here we go. This is what we were hoping for. This is what we were expecting. Here is where they show up and shine. And coming into this next fight, they're going to have the Supercharger online. There it is. It's just popped up. The Blizzard, and very shortly, the Sound Barrier. We've just seen the tank swap off, as well as a McCree coming into play here for Immotus in place of that Widowmaker. So no ultimates online here. Realistically, they've got about 2, maybe 3 fights to try and build up ultimates and take control of the point.
Uh-oh. That is not a good start to this fight. The one ult they had ready and waiting already gone as Kaid gets taken down in a place he cannot be resurrected. We're ticking up to 94% here. Death Blossom, Blizzard, everything being invested. Protatoes know they can win this fight. Win it now and send us to Mecha Base for the final stage of this series.
Is anybody having like deja vu, but in reverse. We saw, like, on Ilios, there was like an evenly matched first map, and then second map, Immotus absolutely dominated. Now we move on to Busan, and it's like evenly matched first map, second map, Protatoes showed up. Oh man, they took such control of that point. Now, moving on to Mecha Base, do or die, last map, both of these teams, everything on the line for this last match of week 5 in the Open Division.
Naori, is that the first Doomfist that we've seen coming out from Kaid right now? Is that the first Doomfist this series?
I think it very well is. Not too surprising to see the Mei on the other side, but Doomfist? Mei has been so historically good on Mecha Base, so to see the swap for the Doomfist, they're really going for that one pick potential. Kaid really going to need to try and get some value here. Not on that signature Pharah anymore. Can he get value?
Doesn't with the first rotation of his abilities, just get some damage down, but does manage to set his team up as with the dominant positioning here. Is it's a tiny uncomfortable choke point that Protatoes are forced into now. Immotus, they get to run to the point, get that first cap online, and at least get some percentage on the board. Kaid going in yet again, does get caught by the wall, not going to be able to get away. Excellent timing from North there. Gives Protatoes the advantage, and they're going to try and snowball it. The Coalescence coming out, the halt as well. Prebuzz going down. And that is going to be the fight going over to Protatoes. Excellent discipline. And North coming up clutch.
I just kind of had to chuckle to myself a little bit there. So we saw a halt come in from Prebus just after the Coalescence from Camper, and Camper's there like, oh, thank you. My team was really split up. You pulled them all together so I can keep them alive. What a lad. So Prebus helping out the enemy team just a little bit there. And yes, we will see Protatoes take control of this point here after losing about 30%. But they do have 3 ultimates online, in fact, just about. On the reverse side, however, 4 ultimates, including the Doomfist.
Get it blocked. The Meteor Strike coming out. It does catch on!
And there it is!
Beautiful ult coming out from Prebus there. That is basically a fight won. Easy peasy for Immotus. And they only had to invest 4 of their ultimates, or I'm sorry, 3 of their ultimates. The Death Blossom is still online.
They only had to invest just about everything. Still got the Death Blossom, as you mentioned, and they're about to have the Supercharger and the Sound Barrier. And the Sound Barrier is going to be key coming into this next fight, because there is a Gravitic Flux online here for Protatoes. Protatoes looking to try and take this back, coming in with 3 ultimates here, including their Coalescence, which is exactly what they need to try and survive the damage here, particularly from that Death Blossom.
Airbone right now just waiting for Protatoes to drop down. There they go. He's in the back. Can't get the kill. Joker loses the animation for the Sound Barrier. Airbone trying to make up the deficit with the Death Blossom. Does get onto 3. So it's still a relatively even fight, but Airbone Simi, they can't clutch it out. Trades back and forth, but ultimately Protatoes come up with the win.
Now, the problem with that fight is that Protatoes used everything. They have absolutely nothing coming into this next fight. Whereas Immotus, they've got the Supercharger. They're about to have Coalescence. They're looking so good coming into this next fight. It's going to be difficult for them to not win this fight.
North having to use the ice block early, not able to get a wall to separate anyone out, and that Coalescence burning through Protatoes as we expected. A stall coming out. Filted does have the Wraith form, so he can manage to get a decent stall here with the help of Raven. So not too much of a deficit for Protatoes, but one more fight could win Immotus the series.
This is absolutely last fight territory, and of course we do have the Meteor Strike online here for Kaid, and that can be devastating, particularly if you combo that up with a well-placed halt. Whereas Protatoes coming in here with, again, just about nothing.
North trying to get the kill onto Kaid. He does manage to do so before Kaid can use the Meteor Strike, but still even trades 4v4, and we have entered overtime. Protatoes, if they want to keep this map alive, they have to invest. They have to use everything now. There's the Coalescence coming out. North might even be able to hang on to the Blizzard for the next fight. We're not done here yet, folks, unless Kaid can come up with a clutch, and it doesn't look like he will.
absolutely insane play from Protatoes managing to take that over. Now, once again, we are absolutely in one fight territory for either team at this point. We've got a couple of ultimates online here. It is literally anybody's game. That Blizzard can be game-changing, but there is a Coalescence ready and waiting to counter it. Of course, there is the Meteor Strike online, but there's about to be a sound barrier. So many ultimate potential here. Last fight, here we go, approaching the point. Who will take it home?
Meteor Strike coming out, the halt sets him up! It gets one! Tampers down, the sound barrier's there though, and Kaid goes down as well. So it's still a relatively even fight. The Death Blossom getting zoned out by the Kinetic Grasp, rather. It's still trades coming either direction. Just tanks and Joker though, whereas Protatoes, they have their DPS, they have filtered, but he goes down as well. Gravitic Flux in desperation gets onto one. Both teams trying to hang on to this fight by the skin of their teeth. It's 2v2 now on the objective as the respawns start to filter through. Both DPS back on Tracers, and there's the Gravitic Flux coming down, the damage coming through. That might have been the difference that Immotus needed, but they lose Airborne. The Coalescence is there. Protatoes coming back from spawn. Prebus is on the wrecking ball. He can stall for so long and even longer with the sound barrier coming through, but it's still anyone's game here, Naori.
Oh my lord, and it's just going on and on and on. They keep touching point here, but Protatoes seem to have control for the moment. The Reinhardt does go down. It's just one lonely Tracer on point. Can someone touch? The overtime consistently ticking, but yes, Protatoes take it.
Protatoes! The excellent name and the excellent play, ultimately netting them the victory in this 5-map series. Neck and neck every step of the way, but plays like this from Filted ultimately get the better of Immotus and send them packing in this second to last Sunday of Open Division.
I'm so blown away. You know, one of our initial talking points was how Protatoes were going to be a little bit on the back foot coming into this this matchup, and they just consistently, over and over again, time after time, fight after fight, bringing it back, making this game their own, turning the whole like history and trend of this match. Theoretically, they should have lost that control, and they put their foot down. That last fight was a mess. The stagger kills, the stall picks just to try and keep that overtime pumping over and over again. But yes, Protatoes do. They turn it around. They bring it back. They take control and win it out in a 5-map series, Paul. This has been a fantastic match to cast.
Yeah, absolutely. A great way to end the penultimate week of our regular season here. There's still one more to come at you in just 6 days' time, so make sure you tune in for that. But until then, have fun playing in your ranked games.